Hello, welcome. It's great to have you all here with us today for an event. So I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Nikki Wicks. I'm the Managing Director of the ustwo European Studios, and I'm joined here today by Colin and Nikki.
Hi, I am Colin Lyons. I am the Delivery Director for our European Studios in ustwo, and I've been with ustwo for 7 years.
And I'm Nikki Wicks. I am the COO and Creative Director at The Body Coach, so two Nikkis. I'm also Joe's brother, as you guys know, but I thought I'd clear that up for anyone watching who just thought our names were similar, and we sound alike, so just to get rid of any confusion. And yeah, I've also, I guess, inadvertently been the product lead on this project, which I never planned on being when we started, but yeah, nice to be here.
Thanks, Nikki. So Nikki, you and Joe were running a really successful business. You built an incredible brand. You had really engaged customers. What prompted you to decide to build an app?
Yeah, so it was quite a long journey really. We had a business that was PDF fitness plans, training and meal plans. We very much saw ourselves as a digital business, but it was very analog at the same time. So the product was very static. We couldn't improve it very quickly. And we always knew in the back of our minds that, you know, technology was going to allow us to make a better product first and foremost, and also, you know, more scalable product. But yeah, we had some false starts. We kind of dipped in and out of the idea, and there are a few times where we had some really interesting meetings with some, you know, people we'd come across in the industry, some kind of people in the tech space that just through events and stuff would sort of say, oh, you know, you should really think about building an app, like saw an opportunity for the brand in the app space. And yeah, we initially started conversations, really started to think about it a few years ago, and explored the idea of what does it even mean to build an app? Like, what do you have to do? Like, how much does it cost? How do you build it? Because Joe and I, you know, it's a pretty small business and we don't have any technical expertise. And a funny story, we actually, after sort of in that period of investigating it, we went and had a meeting at Headspace in Santa Monica and just met the team there. And one of the things we were both just completely overwhelmed with was the amount of people that were in the office. It was like 300 people. And we left thinking, like, if that's what it looks like to have a business, an app business, it put us off. And actually we kind of left going, actually, maybe we shouldn't build an app. And then 2 years later, we sort of started thinking about it again, which sort of started this journey really.
Yeah, and so how did you end up choosing ustwo as your partner?
Basically, when we started to think about it again, really seriously, we just sort of started to ask some people for recommendations. We started to, you know, I had a network of people that worked in the tech space, and a few names came up. ustwo was one of, you know, an agency, a name that came up a couple of times. I also was introduced via a kind of another friend to Mills, one of your co-founders. So there was a bit of a connection there. And in the end, we ended up with a kind of 4 or 5 agencies that had been recommended, and they're all different. Some of them, some big, some more boutique. And yeah, we went around London and met sort of 4 or 5 agencies.
And the chemistry was there, I guess, from the off.
Yeah, so I'd already had a meeting with Lexi, our client partner, and had been to the studio and really loved it. And I was like, wow, like this is a really cool place. And I left feeling like, in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, I really like those guys. Joe then came back from America, and I had lined up the agencies to meet. And we basically, it was a really busy time, and I managed to kind of get all of the meetings. I guess you call them pitches. They were pitches. I mean, I've never been in a pitch process before, but apparently it's called a pitch. So we had this like whole day, and me and Joe just going to meet these other agencies, and they had all had a brief and came, you know, with some kind of ideas about how they would work with us. And ustwo was the last agency. It was like really late in the afternoon, and I was
the worst time to.
Yeah, we and Joe were tired, and it was like a long day. But I had sort of, in the back of my mind all day, I was like, I know he's going to love ustwo, because I had already sort of loved them from that initial meeting. But I didn't want to sway him in any way, so I was really like playing it, you know, just sort of not saying anything. We had the meeting. And as you know, Colin, you were there. Joe famously hired you on the spot in that meeting, and I was sort of kicking him under the table, like going, Joe, like this, you know, I wanted to make you sweat a little bit. I didn't think we should like play all over, but that's Joe. So we basically made the decision that day, there and then, to work with you guys. So here we are.
Yeah, amazing. Here we are, so many months later. And Colin, I wanted to ask you, Joe and Nikki, as Nikki said, hadn't done this kind of process before. They hadn't done the pitching. They certainly hadn't gone through the journey of software development. How did you explain the process and start to get them comfortable?
Yeah, the thing is, having built a lot of digital products, I know that everyone starts out very optimistic, right? That's how the energy gets created around creating a new product. But the journey is inevitably rocky. And I felt, there was a real affinity for Joe and Nikki in the studio. Generally, there was people just knew about Joe and they really loved him. They had people who were already committed to him. So I think there was a sense of, don't want to steer these people wrong. I want to make sure they really understand the journey that we're going to be on if we do this together. So we had a kickoff, and our kickoff process is quite elaborate. We try to really get a connection between all the parties involved, make sure there's a real understanding of each other and building that collaboration that's going to be necessary to make this journey work. But I just felt like we had to be very explicit with Joe and Nikki about, and the rest of your team that had come as well, had come to that kickoff, just to make sure everyone was clear that I don't know what the bumps are going to be, but they're going to be bumps. It's just the nature of doing software. So we just ran some exercises to really make transparent what that experience would be like. The fact there's going to be ups and downs. Actually, I thought was quite interesting to see, because I've run this exercise, dozens and dozens of times before. And Joe was the first person I'd ever seen respond to the exercise the way he did, which essentially was, just saying, well, what do you think the emotional journey is going to feel like? And each person kind of draws a little graph, and it's just a way to kind of visualize the experience of what it might be like. So we're going around the room. There must be 25 or 30 of us in that room. And everyone's showing their little graph of what it's going to be like. And Joe's graph was like, positive now, positive to the end.
Right. Wow.
I think I got some work to do here because it's not going to look like that. And we debriefed about it as we were talking through our different views of what the experience was going to be like. And what he said was, look, I know there's going to be ups and downs. It's the nature of doing the kind of work that we do. But personally, I'm going to stay positive. I'm going to be the one who keeps us feeling good about the journey. And I think that was actually a really good thing for him to say, because I think it really crystallized the positivity he has to kind of do what he does, to do the kind of, building software is hard. There's a lot of unknown unknowns, and that's the thing that really makes it tough. That was the way in which I wanted to kind of start getting the mindset of, we're going to go through some stuff together, and we're going to do it together, but it's not all going to be fun and games.
I remember that so well, and I think I've told you this since then, but I remember it so well. And actually, I remember a point in time where things started to get tough, and I actually remember that. I remember thinking, right, Colin said this was going to happen. He said there's no projects where it's all just really smooth and great and technology's tough, and it really stuck with me. So I'm so glad we did it, because there was so much naivety, like from me and Joe. Like, we're a really small team. A lot of people see the body coach business and the brand and think there's quite a big machine behind it, but there's really not. Like, that whole process of hiring an agency, and even the decision to build an app, was just me and Joe, and there was no advisors, there was no tech. There was no one else to sort of support. So, I definitely remember that really well, and it certainly set me up, because I was obviously more hands-on than Joe was day to day. But I just remember really going back to that thing you said and thinking, right, okay, we knew this was going to happen. We're going to get through it. Yeah. So it's like really that exercise. Whatever you keep doing, that exercise is what basically. Yeah.
And Joe, I guess, did stay true to his word. He did turn up to those demos with real positivity and inject kind of the energy into the room, which was really amazing. I mean, Nikki, you've kind of raised it now. There were some hairier moments for us on the project, right? We did have some tough moments. How did that feel for you, and how do you feel we navigated through it?
So what are we now, like 18 months since we started building it? And I've learned just so much. It's been an amazing, that kickoff, or the pitch, should I say, when we did that, and when Joe hired you on the spot, I left that meeting going, right, we need to find someone who's going to basically run this project for us. I now know would be a product lead or someone. And we did a discovery phase, and there was so much personal stuff that this project needed. Like, we really wanted it to feel like Joe, and wanted it to be like Joe. And we know we've used Joe in your pocket, this idea of it being personal and emotional. And basically, only me or Joe could answer a lot of those questions. So bringing someone in to kind of, have that role didn't really work. So I ended up doing it just because I kind of had to. Right. And then I've ended up just kind of continuing on that journey, and I've learned so much. But it has been, there have been times when it's been really tough. Like the toughest point was when we realised that, the budget that we had set wasn't going to be enough to get it done, and that was because, it was a lot more complex, and it was, but we, that was when I look back, that was a horrible week or two where we had some difficult meetings and difficult conversations, but I always felt like we were getting through it together as a kind of, right, we need to figure this out. And I think you guys took responsibility, put your hands up as well and took responsibility for kind of, scoping maybe wasn't as, it was tricky to scope it at the start, but I didn't feel like it was like a loggerheads. It was more like, okay, we've hit this speed bump and we need to find a way through it, like together. Yeah. And I definitely felt like we were in it, it wasn't like our problem, it was our collective problem that we needed to fix. But aside from that, I mean, learning that, for me personally, that technology takes time.
Right.
Some things and even now it's like understanding that the smallest changes when you're trying to build something really well and really, I think you may have also, the analogy of a house, like building a house, like if you want to do it properly, like you need to get the foundations right. And yeah, I think now 18 months in, I'm a lot more understanding of the process. So the things that felt like we were going too slow, now I understand them. So I think a lot of the challenges for me were just the naivety of not really understanding technology, but always felt like we could ask questions, and we were very much guided through it by you guys. So
I find that if I reflect on our experience together on this project, I feel like it was the epitome of true partnership. And whenever we're starting off a project with a client, that's what I'm aiming for. I'm aiming to try to build a relationship that we can actually feel like we have a partnership. And some clients give that lip service. They say, oh yeah, you're partners. But then when things get difficult, they don't want to go through that together as partners. And I feel like this project really epitomized what that means. It means that, like you said, when we came to the table, we took responsibility for things that we could have done better, for sure. And we worked on, okay, so what's our solution? How do we work that through? But I think there's some other things that maybe don't stand out in your mind as much as they do to me, because when you have, no matter how much budget you have, it's limited, right? That doesn't matter which client you have. And you always want more than your budget can get you in the time that you want to get it done. And that means constant trade-offs, right? You're always having to say, what am I not getting? What am I not getting? And that is obviously it's a very important part of the process of building software. But the emotion of having to accept that you're not going to get what you hoped for, what you dreamed of, it's something that all projects have to deal with. But I think some clients deal with it better than others. And I feel like you guys did it really, really well. We were in a lot of conversations, I would say daily, but maybe it wasn't daily, but it felt like that. We were talking all the time about, okay, what are we going to trim down? What are we going to get it down to so we can fit into the budget? What's our prioritization going to be? And I feel that kind of dialogue done in the form that we did it really felt like partnership to me.
Yeah.
And it's not something I can say that we have all the time. It's what I aim for, but people, different circumstances, cause whether people can really feel they can get into a relationship with an agency as a partnership or not.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. And it's been a very close working relationship with all of the team, but it's been emotional. Like it's been personal, and it's so personal. Like it wasn't like we're just building a product. We've got this idea for a product. Like we kind of had a product that we knew, had a good kind of market fit, and we wanted to kind of take what we knew, but also make it better. But the key thing, was really making it feel like Joe. So it was really, we had to really kind of have that, I think if we had not been so close, that personality stuff that I think comes through in the product wouldn't have been as strong.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. So it's interesting because you said before when you set on this, you thought you were going to hire someone else to kind of represent you and work with us. And as difficult as it was for you as a journey to be on, I feel like it made for a much better product, having someone who cared so deeply about the brand, understood Joe so well, could represent what he cared about. I feel like that showed up in the product. So, who knows what the alternative, other door would have been, but I feel like it really contributed heavily to creating such a good product.
And just the last thing I say on that is also understanding our audience. Like we knew, we had 600,000 people had signed up to our previous products over 5 years, which was the PDF business I mentioned. Yeah. So we really understood our audience as well. So we were also kind of able to really go like, no, that's not going to work for our community. Yeah. So I think it's worked out. I mean, I'm now finally stepping back a little bit. We finally hired a product lead who's coming to kind of hopefully take it to the next level. But yeah,
which is a great next step in the journey. I mean, Nikki, you mentioned there, you talked about numbers of customers in the PDF business. I wanted to talk to you a little bit, or if you could tell us a little bit about how you identified what success for the digital product, the app, would be, and then how you're doing against those metrics.
Yeah, so we had no idea really like what it was gonna do. I mean, the big challenge was obviously we launched on iOS only first. We didn't have the budget or the resources to do both at the same time. We also knew that we wanted to build it natively on iOS, so there wasn't really ever an option to launch for. So we knew that we were, one of our core values as a brand is like fitness for everyone. So, our YouTube channel, for example, which is still a huge part of our brand, which we continue to give away, to give free workouts. We believe everyone should have access to fitness, whether they can buy the app or not afford the app. But with the product, because we were cutting off the Android users, we never really knew how many people were going to potentially sign up.
But we did some work together on that to kind of guesstimate, didn't we?
Yeah, we guesstimated, and also what we didn't predict. Obviously, I think important to mention, like the context of last year. Like as a brand, we had this huge, moment with PE with Joe, which grew our audience massively, which we had not planned for. And obviously we'd started building the app long before then. We had a really incredible launch. Like we had 38,000 pre-orders on the app, which Apple sort of shared some numbers, and pre-ordering is really strong in gaming, but they hadn't really seen, from what I understand, it wasn't particularly, people don't pre-order apps that much from what I understand. So that was a really good sign that there was like this really kind of hungry audience. I mean, 38,000 people was a great, so the day it went live, it was pre-installed into nearly 40,000 people's hands. And yeah, we've had we're super happy with the numbers. It's, completely blown our expectations without sharing specific numbers. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there are some things we can share, aren't you? You've been number one in the App Store on numerous occasions.
Yeah.
You've got 4.8 stars, I think, almost pushing at 4.9. So you've got a really kind of engaged, happy, loyal customer base.
Yeah, really, really happy. Yeah, we've got 17,000 reviews. The reviews are coming in really quickly. We're getting lots of feedback. We're developing it like super quickly, like we're fixing things all the time. We knew that we launched with things we wanted to add, and we're kind of coming to the end of those initial things now. Yeah, we're super happy. I mean, we've got massive ambition. It's been very quite organic as well. Like the audience, the kind of acquisition has been very organic. So we're near. I can share a number. We've kind of very close to. we're very close to 1 million downloads.
Amazing.
Which, so 6 months in, like, we're really happy with that. I always say to people, I've got no idea if that's good or not. I don't know if that compared to other apps, or I've got no idea. But for us, like, that's a big milestone. And yeah, we're just excited we're only 6 months in, so we're still learning like every day. Yeah,
which is incredible, given, as you say, so much of it's been organic and built on Joe's already existing brand. Do you think, how has your relationship with customers changed as a result of the product? I mean, I guess you mentioned it was launched in such unusual circumstances. So even the way people are thinking about fitness has changed kind of against the backdrop of the pandemic. Less people are going to gyms, more people are thinking about at-home fitness. But how do you feel your relationship with your customers has changed?
So slightly separate, but similar. One of the big concerns we had around the app and it scaling so quickly, which we hoped it would, was the customer service question. And we've had a bit of a journey as a business. Like we at the start of the sort of 5-6 years ago, we went from like kind of literally Joe, and kind of not any staff doing all the, when he first started selling the PDF, to like 50 customer service staff. And we've kind of gone down over the last 3 or 4 years to a team of around 15 customer service people. And what we were worried about was that when we launched the app with hopefully tons of users, whether we were going to be kind of overwhelmed by customer support inquiries, because people that come on the journey, like they need help with different things, from like they get injured and they want advice around the food. And so customer service is the kind of biggest part of our company in terms of the team. So we were really mindful of that. And one of the things we really wanted to do was preempt some of those questions, what we had historically got on the PDF, and try to build it into the product. and it's just been incredible. Like considering the volume of customers we've got, we haven't had to hire any additional customer service. We're at a much lower numbers than we were with the PDF.
Nikki, that's phenomenal, because I mean, you were just saying you're about to have 1 million downloads, and you basically have managed to keep a customer service team at around 15.
Yeah, and it's actually I think it's just under 15, and we have seen no signs that we need to scale it or grow that, because we've fixed so many of the issues we previously had in the product design. I still can't believe that we're only really 6 months in and we're learning, and we're getting lots of great feedback. The relationship with the customer is very close. Like, people still send Joe DMs on Instagram every night, and Joe voice notes people. He'll send like 50 voice notes or video messages on his Instagram. So he's like the front line of customer service in some ways. Like, and to have 4 million followers on Instagram and still answer your DMs. I mean, he runs all of his social media himself and answers things personally. So he gets a lot of really quick feedback. I mean, I think the app's gone down once, and it was actually a bigger internet
it was
issue.
a third-party service.
I think like half the internet went down or something. But actually, we knew within like a second, because Joe had like 100 messages going, the app's down, and then we got all the alerts from the system. So our audience are very engaged. They always have been, but I'd say the app has just given them something new and exciting to talk about. So I wouldn't say it's changed that it's changed in a positive way. And the one thing that is great, you can change the app. You can add new features all the time, and the feedback is like, oh, you're listening to us, and so they feel really like they're part of it as well.
Well, of course, you developed the app in kind of partnership with your customers by having a beta initially, didn't you? That was a kind of closed beta group where they were giving kind of regular updates.
Yeah, we had a really good beta. I think we ran that for 3 months maybe. But even now, like, some of the best ideas, have come from the audience. Like, we just, launched a small feature a couple of weeks ago, like favoriting workouts, which sounds like really obvious, but we hadn't built it in. But it was something we kept hearing it, and that was something we were able to go, actually, and it's only become a problem as in later cycles as people have got more workouts in their library. Right. So it actually wasn't a thing that was really needed, but they told us first, and then we managed to build it, and we're kind of doing that all the time. Like, they're the best developers, really, right, from an ideation perspective, because they're constantly telling you what they want.
Yeah, 100%. Colin, what do you think ustwo learned as part of the journey?
Well, I think the thing we talked about earlier, where we had some challenges with sort of getting the initial budget matched to the scope. We had some internal things we had to change about how we did that. So I think that was a big lesson for us to kind of figure out how can we minimize the chances of that kind of thing happening again. And funnily enough, that kind of thing hadn't happened in my whole time I've been at ustwo before, but still, you have to take that kind of thing quite seriously. So that's one big thing in terms of how we've been putting in checks and balances to kind of minimize that chance again. I think other things that we've learned is that when you it's one thing to take a product to market, it's another thing to continue to be in with that product through its optimization and its growth. That's something that we haven't done as much in the past as we would like. It's a space that we love to be in, and so doing that, and for such a long time. Sometimes we're there just after it launches for a bit, but we've got a relationship with you where we want to continue doing this for quite some time. So I think that's an interesting growth area for ustwo, and how it's managing a longer term relationship once a product is live, because we're accustomed to spending 85% of our energy getting the product to market, and then spending the rest of that time getting the product back to the client to own, or giving to another third party. So that's been a really wonderful journey for us. And again, it's been doing it in a partnership has been a really great way to do that. I think other things too are just, there's a time when putting aside for a moment the body coach's profile, there's a time when we were very reluctant to take on a client like you, because we tend to operate much more in the sort of corporate space, even if it's a new venture from a corporation, wherever. It's corporates who they're not coming in naive about digital necessarily, and they do understand what it takes to do this sort of thing. But I think having this experience with you maybe opened my eyes, at least personally, about being more discerning about what we would take on and what we wouldn't when it's a founder-led brand. That's one of the things that we've been a bit cautious of, because sometimes decision-making that happens there doesn't follow the kind of the paradigm that you expect when you are working with a large corporate or something like that. They've got systems for checking things and managing different aspects of the whole journey. So often when we have founder-led brands that come to us, we're a little bit not sure it's the right thing for us to do. And for quite some time, I was in the mindset of like, I just don't think we should do that anymore. But I think the experience with the Body Coach has opened my eyes to it's more subtle than that. It's not so coarse. So that's definitely a personal learning for me.
Right.
And I also think that, like I said at the beginning, one of the things I'm aiming for when we start our projects is to build this kind of partnership. And if you have too much gap in your experience between the last time you saw that happen, the next time you see it happen, you can start to lose faith that, it's really there. You think, oh, maybe that was a fluke. And I feel like the experience I've had with this program of work has kind of renewed my faith that this is possible. You really can create these relationships, even though it's a commercial relationship. You can still create the connection on the human level that does allow you to weather things and celebrate together as well. Like we talk about the downside, but the upside was that the joy and the emotion that you saw. I remember on launch day, we were all on Zoom, so we couldn't be in the same place, but it's just, I've got this image burned in my memory.
With the blue background.
Yeah, everyone was really so excited about it. And we had, people had their Zoom background being the Body Coach or something blue or something that represented the brand in some way. And there was just such a genuine, authentic excitement by everybody, not just the people on the product side, but the developers and the testers and the delivery people and so on. It was all you could feel that energy was very real. And that kind of, you can always strive for something once you've seen it once, right? Once you've seen it, you go, okay, I know this is possible. It helps you do it again because you go, I know you can get there. So for me, that's another thing I carry with me as a bit of a lesson, a bit of a reminder. With every client we've had since, I'm using that as my reference point. I'm trying to create that atmosphere again. And of course, it's not me alone. I think ustwo's got that kind of in its DNA to collaborate in that way. But as part of the, responsible for delivery in our organization, that's part of our job is try to create those bonds between people, between teams, between clients, between, even other agencies, if there's another agency involved in our relationship. So that for me is a huge reference point. I mean, I've said this a number of times to people on our teams that this will be a project you will reference for the rest of your career. You will experience things about how you collaborate, how you deal with challenges. How do you create a sense of purpose? All of these things are very rare in the world of agency life, and I think that having that as a reference point is something that is invaluable to have as a reference point for all the people on the team.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't know what you mentioned. The other thing I think quite interesting about us as a client, as a client, I always feel weird calling us a client because I spend more time with ustwo than us and on unfortunately over Zoom now, because I was in the studio like 2 or 3 times a week before lockdown, and I used to love coming there because it was just such I prefer working in a group with people, but we're a weird business really in the sense of like we're essentially now like a tech startup. Like I feel like a tech startup. We're starting a tech company. And we're building this app and, we're building a team, but like, we're also not a startup. Like we're a brand that's been, Joe's been building the Body Coach brand, almost 10 years really from when he started. So we're kind of like a really established brand and yet we're now kind of a tech startup. And just to say in terms of, the budgets and stuff, I think the other thing is like, we've never raised any money. Like this was our own money. Right. This was like Joe's and the business, real personal investment. So that also made it, I think, even more sensitive. And I think you guys were always really aware of that and knew. And I think that's why we all had that difficult period, but it was knowing that it was actually not a kind of, VC money that we were just sort of throwing into a project. So, but it's been like, we overcame that very quickly. And I think that the thing that you just said about, I think it's just like trust. Like we had no choice, like not that we didn't have a choice, but we had to trust the process and we had to trust you so implicitly because we didn't really have we had no expertise on our side. And I said to Joe, like, we really just need to, trust that we're working with the right people. And that came, I think, not from your creds or seeing other work you've done. It was like, these are good people. Like we know, because that relationship we'd grown, through all the meetings. And like you say, the celebration side of it's been really important. I think we've all kind of celebrated those moments and been in the bad, the tricky, sticky stuff as well. So I basically agreed. I'm just repeating what you said.
Well, it also makes me think of something else as well. Is I think there's some things, I don't know for people who are watching this, what their businesses are like and how they can relate to the body coach experience. But there are a few things that I feel are very relevant that maybe aren't self-evident. So for instance, a lot of times when we're working on client projects, the people who are sponsoring it, so the equivalent of Joe, are quite distant. They're very busy people, and they may get a half an hour with them once a month kind of thing. It's very hard to get their attention. But I don't think that they realize the degree to which they can influence the energy and motivation and spirit of that team by just being there, to just being there, telling people they're doing a good job. And Joe is a master at that. He would come to almost all of the show and tells, and he would just tell people that he was really proud of the work they were doing, and that's fuel for a team to feel like they're really doing a good job. And I just think that that's such a small, simple thing to do that it'd just be good for people to realize how much power they have in their voice and being present in supporting how a team can deliver and how excited they can be and how engaged they can feel. And I think there's a lot of little things like that in terms of, in a way, the Body Coach project for us is a bit of a microcosm for what we do on other projects in some sense. Scale-wise, and not necessarily, but in terms of the way because it was only dealing with you primarily and with Joe from time to time. But often on other projects with our other larger clients, we will have a whole suite of individuals that we're dealing with, and so it multiplies in terms of complexity. But the foundations, the fundamentals of making those things successful are the same. There's no difference. The trust you talked about is critical, and and I think it's very interesting to hear you play back the story of what it felt like for you, because you recognize, we just have to trust them. We don't know better. I think the truth of that exists even with our other clients who kind of know better, but they wouldn't come to us if they knew better. If they could do the job, they wouldn't.
I think as well, the thing that you mentioned about Joe is the thing that Joe can really bring, which I can bring to an extent, but no one can do it more than Joe, is like we care so much about this product in terms of how it changes people's lives. Like it matters to us that it works and that people can use it and improve their lives and their health. And I think we care so much about it. And I think we had to almost make sure you guys cared as much as we did. And I think that's come through, probably Joe's the best advocate for that. I think even that, now the WhatsApp group we've got, when someone shares a transformation story, we still share it with you guys, because it's look, just remember this product is helping so many people. And that's because that, ultimately that's the motivation, for Joe and for me and for us as a brand. So it wouldn't work if you didn't care what we were trying to do. Yeah. And so even now that it's still going, we have to make sure you still care. Yeah. And that, I think that's naturally still happening because we're still sharing these, these stories in over the weekends on WhatsApp. Right. And when you said about some of the team that this will be one of the projects they look back on, I hope it's because they, and I might just be a bit idealistic, but because they know that it is a really great product that is really changing people's lives. Because it does, people that use it and stick to it, they do turn their lives around, whether it's, through losing weight or exercising to, for mental health or feeling good. So yeah, there's that care. And I genuinely do think we've instilled this real feeling of we all care about it. Yeah.
I mean, ustwo's drive is to make products that make a meaningful difference in the world. And this fits so neatly. So people come to work at ustwo because they want to work on projects that are going to do that. And so I think that the team, and I think it reflects on the team that we have on this project, they all care so deeply about the impact they're making. Yeah. And I think that's it's brought them together to work so well collaboratively across a difficult time. A lot of these people actually never met in person. Right. Some of these people joined the project during the pandemic and have never met. And yet, if you looked at the cohesiveness, you wouldn't believe this is a team that never met each other.
No, I agree.
Really extraordinary.
I think there's a combination of the authenticity, Nikki, of you and Joe and the way you were with people, which is so rare. And then also the kind of adversity of the journey we went on together against the context of the pandemic that brought people close together in a way that's really rare and did enable all of the team to feel like actually every single penny and every decision was taken and thought about in a way as if it was their own, which is a kind of real rare thing. You always hope for that, as Colin has said, in a client relationship. I want to go back to, you talked about headspace and you went into that room and there are 350 people and you thought, oh, well, Joe and I don't want that right now. But if we acknowledge that your business has gone through a digital transformation, a word that's bandied around a lot, not everyone likes, but essentially you've gone from being analog, as you described, to very much a digital or kind of tech startup. What has been the impact on your business of that process, and what do you imagine kind of the next steps being?
one of the questions like Joe's constantly asked and me is like, can you have a really successful tech product or an app and not have 300 people? I hope the answer is yes, but the answer is definitely not like you can have 5 people or 10 people. So we've now, we accept that now, we acknowledge it, and we know that, with technology from what I now know, is that if you're going to have a successful product that's reaching lots of people around the world, and you want to keep making it better as well, you do need people. So, I know at the moment we've got a team of 40 with you, obviously sitting within you guys across Android and iOS. And essentially, we're at the stage now where we're starting to we're starting to bring the team in-house. Right. So the product lead was our first key hire. We're now looking for a head of tech, as you know, and that will very much be the first hire of what is probably going to be, we think, within 12 months, maybe we'll have a team of around 40, a tech team of around 40 people. Yeah. I imagine potentially could continue to grow if we continue to grow and the app continues to grow, or the business, so that's where we're at. And even when I put the job ad out for the head of tech last week, I said, Joe, right, this is it, the ball started to roll. Right. And he's like, oh, okay, do we definitely need to hire a team? And I'm like, yeah, we do. So but it is scary, but we're just kind of, you guys have been really good at supporting us with that as well, in terms of hiring and just letting us kind of, I always feel like we ask probably really stupid questions because we don't come from a technical background, or we don't have the expertise, and it's very kind of, even now, less so. I like to think I'm less naive than I was 18 months ago, but it's still kind of like, is this really, what we need to do? And obviously we're now, I like to think now we're at this point where we've got a really good product, and we're now building an organization around us to kind of take off some of the burden on the agency model, to kind of bring some of it in-house, because for long-term success we need that.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
So that's where we're at.
So do you feel like you're a sort of digital business, or will it only be when you open the doors and there's kind of a team of 150 developers and designers?
150?
Sorry, I just dropped that bomb. Yeah, hang on. 40, Nick.
We haven't even got, right now the whole Body Coach team is, as I said, is I think 13 customer support people, me and Joe, and 2 other people. So there's about 16, 17 of us, I think.
Probably you should pause there, because I'm sure it really blows some people's mind that actually you have built this really successful business, and there's 15 or 16 of you behind that, which really is amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely a small team. People are always surprised. I think they think we've got marketing team, and Joe and me are the marketing team. It is a small team, but it's exciting. We are excited about building it. It's just we didn't want to cut any corners. When we built the app, the reality is, we knew you guys were going to do amazing work. We loved the culture and the connection we had from day one. At the same time, we could have gone down the road and built it with a much smaller agency, much cheaper, but we wanted to do it properly. We wanted to do it well. And we've kind of taken that approach with everything. We're looking for, we need really good people. And I think the success of, moving forward depends on getting the right people in 100%. Around us, because me and Joe, we've hit the ceiling of what we can now do with the business, I think, certainly from the product point of view. Yeah, don't say 150. I hope if Joe's watching this, he's
sorry, I won't freak you Joe out again. Got some great questions coming in. I guess just before we go to them, I just want to say, Nikki, so everyone's aware, what's next for the Body Coach? Beyond the number of people you're hiring, just in terms of growth, so everyone's got a sense of what you're doing next. You mentioned Android.
So yeah, we've got the Android app coming out in December. Yeah. I mean, what's next? So going back to that thing of the small team, and then not, we don't plan ahead very much. Literally, we do things on a whim kind of all the time. I mean, some of our brand partners, one of the things I always have to explain to, we have some partnerships. We work with Gusto, we work with Lululemon, and they're like, oh, can we see your content calendar? When are you posting stuff? And You know, I'm kind of now well versed in it, but 6 years on, I'm like, no, we don't have a content calendar. Joe posts whatever he posts at any given time, whenever he feels like it. I mean, sometimes I go on my phone and he's doing an Instagram live, like talking about, you know, and I don't even know about it. The best one was, I was at home on a Saturday night and he put a post on Instagram saying, oh, I'm going to do a meet up for a walk around Richmond Park if anyone wants to join tomorrow morning or Sunday morning. And I was like, okay, I probably should go. I wanted to have a lay-in, but I'll go just to help out. And like 1,000 people turned up. So planning isn't something we do that well.
Right.
But I can tell you we've got Android. We're launching, you know, we're looking at international markets. So hopefully, you know, when we can travel again, we launched in Australia. And we'd love to go over there and meet some of the audience and kind of help grow the brand over there. And then the US is a big market we're looking at unlocking soon. But what I was saying to you earlier, what I'm really excited about is like we came into this going, right, we're going to build an app. Right. And we've built an app. Now we need to build another app for the Android users. But then I'm quite excited about what we're going to build that we don't know yet. Like whether it's, you know, TV app or what, you know, Apple Watch or anything else in technology that I don't even know about yet. Yeah. So I'm hoping you're going to tell us what we're going to
Yeah, right.
Like,
we'll do that after this.
Yeah.
Brilliant. All right, so we have got loads of questions. Nikki, first one for you. When you talk about growing your team, has ustwo helped inform what you need and who you recruit? You've sort of answered that, but maybe you could talk a little bit about how we helped you hire the head of product. Yeah, so
good question. Yes, you have helped a lot. I mean, with our first hire, our head of product, that whole process was handled by you guys, as you know. So you helped us with the job description, because number one, I don't know what we're looking for in terms of expertise. Number two, we don't even have anywhere to advertise a job. There's not even like a jobs tab on our website. So you literally helped with the job description, hosted it on the ustwo jobs page, and supported the whole process.
And we should probably say as well, I guess, we also helped with that org design component, didn't we, in terms of thinking, who should you hire first?
Yeah.
Like, what are the key roles in your organization, which is why we're now working with you on head of tech. But even that component was something we were kind of working through with you.
Yeah, so the plan is, and Sagar, who's just joined as our head of product, only last week actually, he's now, kind of really strong tech background, product background, helping us to think about the shape of that team. And the plan is that you're going to support with the head of tech role and the screening, the interviewing process, really helping us understand what we need. But long term, obviously, we're not expecting you to help us hire 150 people, as Nikki's just informed me we're going to be hiring. So, because you're not a recruitment firm,
Right.
But we have definitely used you for these two, key ones, which I'm really pleased about, because, if our head of tech is as good as our head of product, we're going to be in a good place.
Next question. How do you manage product strategy and customer feedback while making sure you don't lose sense of your long-term product vision goals and meeting your KPIs? That's a great question.
It's worth saying that obviously we have a really small team, as in the business, but we have a really big, robust team within ustwo. So we have, a strategy lead, we have a data analyst now. So we have people that are working on a lot of this stuff all the time. So we've got, 2 really core squads, one that's focused on churn and retention, and one that's focused on expanding and growing the product. So we're looking at they're obviously working very closely together, but we obviously, feedback-wise, we've got our Facebook group, closed community group on the product. It's 100,000 people. And we are constantly getting, from Joe getting DMs to the Facebook group to social media, we're getting all this feedback. We're also collecting feedback on through surveys. So every user that churn is something that I didn't know anything about until we launched an app. I wish I didn't, because churn is like a whole thing.
Unpleasant.
It's a thing, yeah. It's definitely a thing that we're getting our head around. But we release a churn survey that asks people why they leave. And so we're kind of collecting all that information, and then we're using it to inform our decisions. But to your point, Nikki, I think one of the things that we're trying to balance now is all the things the app could do and what we think like ultimately it should do, because we don't want to kind of try and be lose the core of the product, which is a personalized experience. So that's quite a tricky challenge that we're doing a lot of work on now.
Next, hey Nikki and ustwo, how are you thinking about accessibility for the hard of hearing, vision impaired vision impaired participants wanting to get involved with the app?
I love that question, and it's something we're working on at the moment.
Now.
So one of our core values, I said, is like fitness for everyone, and so that really means fitness for everyone. So YouTube's an example where we're really able to live that and that mission, that value. So we have workouts on there for 2 and 3 year olds, and they're really, really popular in schools, and nurseries are using them. We've just done a collaboration with Hey Dougie, which is all aimed at preschool. So we a workout series with Hey Dougie, all the way through to our most popular workouts at the moment are our senior citizen workouts. And during lockdown, they really took off. We created a whole series for people at home that couldn't, it's seniors essentially. And so fitness for everyone for us means everyone. And then obviously within that, you've got people that are deaf, you've got the blind community, you've got tons of other, we're looking at how can we create workouts for wheelchair users. And the answer is, we've just recently posted a whole series on YouTube of workouts with a deaf trainer who we met through our search. And they've been amazingly, really well received. And we want to continue building on that. In the app, we're actually unpacking some work now around captions on the workouts. We already built, we use some of Apple's accessibility features within the app. So in terms of, I won't know the technical, you can make things bigger for visually impaired users. And actually we're talking to someone in the blind community at the moment about how could we create workouts for the blind community. And we actually have an Alexa skill, which is a voice workouts with Joe. And part of that thinking was, again, like really clear instructional workouts. And that's been quite a good test to see what does Joe translate in audio workouts where you don't need to see what he's doing. So we're working on it, and it's really important to us. So we're going to just continue to make workouts for everyone. That's the plan.
Thanks for sharing that, and it's great to hear the team is currently working on unpacking that a bit more. What about the platform? So are you ensuring that both iOS and Android are feature paritied, or do you see differences in the platforms?
That's a good question. I know the answer to this. As soon as it started, I thought this one's going to be a technical one, but no. So we're launching Android in December, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in terms of it's going to launch with in terms of parity where we were in March this year.
That's right. Yeah.
So it will be a little bit further on from the launch of iOS, but it will be not fully up to speed. So part of the goal and the work once we launch Android will be to
bring it up,
catch up. Yeah. And I hope we can, catch up and then be at the same level. Parity is the word, isn't it?
That's the word.
Yeah. That's the word.
I learned that word recently.
So here's one that's a question more about the business strategy. How did you think about the commercialization and pricing for the app, and did ustwo help with this?
Good questions.
Yeah, good.
Have you made these up? Are these actual real questions? Are these real
questions?
They're really good questions. So pricing was a hard one. It took us about 2 months to land on the pricing. We worked really closely with Eva, who's the strategy lead. I don't know if that's her actual title, but she's our strategy person. And she's really been working really closely with me on stuff like pricing and go-to-market strategies and stuff like that. So pricing, honestly, we have built a premium product and a really premium experience. And a lot of the research we did and, straw polls, we feel like we could have priced it could have been more expensive. And the challenge was me and Joe were coming in going, we want it to be as cheap as it possibly can be, because we want it to be accessible and we want people to be able to really afford it. So it was striking that balance between like making it commercially, viable, but also making it as cheap and as accessible as it could be. So we hope we've done that. It's and also we launched with 3 pricing tiers. So that again was to kind of to have some options and flexibility. And look, one of our key, the time we've done promotional offers at launch. We launched with an offer, and we recently did an offer for the summer, and that that really boosts, subscriptions.
And you changed the strategy a bit, didn't you, recently? Initially, it was kind of sign up immediately, and now there's an initial free trial, isn't there?
So yeah, we unlocked a free trial recently because I think a lot of people, was expecting a free trial in this kind of experience, and we had decided initially not to do that. We hadn't really, but it's something we learned people really wanted, and it's worked really well. Like, people have got to look inside the app a little bit. We're actually doing a lot of work now around activating people during that free trial, because it's actually quite a lot, and it can be quite overwhelming to try in 7 days to really get the benefits from it. And we really want people to actually go, I've got something from this 7 days. So we're trying to encourage people to try one workout to make them feel good. And but yeah, that's a good point. We launched a free trial.
Great, thank you. And Nikki, a more personal question for you. Do you think your self-quoted naivety helped you in your approach to developing the app? I love that question.
That's a good question.
Good question.
We didn't make that up either.
You're definitely writing these yourself. Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and definitely. Like, I had no idea about technology. I had definitely never launched or built an app, and I really learnt a lot, and I've loved that. It hasn't made me want to be like a product person.
Right. It's a tough job.
I don't suddenly want to work in. I say work in tech, I keep forgetting we are now a tech company. So,
but you're not running Spotify for a job. Not keen to get straight in there.
No, but yeah, no, it did help. It helped a lot, and like I said, it did make the pressure, or not the pressure, but that onus of trust. It made it even more. Because we had to really go okay, what should we do? What do you recommend? And obviously, look, we took all the decisions on and took them very seriously. But one thing I loved, I think I always felt like all of the scenario. I think you guys were really great at painting all the scenarios for things. There were always options, and it was this is what it would mean. And I have to say, from a technical standpoint, having no technical expertise, Aaron, who was our tech principal, and is still our tech principal. But through that first year, his ability to explain complex stuff is amazing. Yeah. He explained the most technical, and not even because I had to ask. He just knew. I don't know if that's how he is all the time, or if he just knew that he was talking to talking to someone, didn't know what the hell was going on. But he made it super easy. And explained it enough that I could understand the technicality, but not to overwhelm me with strange words and stuff.
Yeah, I know. It was. I think to use the word naivety was a real asset for you. You came completely fresh, not bogged down in the kind of what's possible, but more what would the customers need and what did you and Joe want to deliver.
Yeah, 100%.
Really important. Okay, moving more on to marketing now. Aside from an Apple promotion and communicating to your existing customer base, etc., did you carry out any other marketing for the app? If so, what worked and what didn't?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question because we've basically, for the last sort of 5 or 6 years, we've built the brand very organically on social media. And what I would say, so my background in journalism was, I think, when I came to work with Joe about 6 years ago, I was really obsessed with content, and I still am. We really doubled down on content, and we kind of, content marketing was our thing. It wasn't an add-on to digital advertising or more traditional advertising. We basically, for the last 5 or 6 years, have done content. I think really well in terms of growing an audience. So, as I said, our YouTube channel is the biggest fitness YouTube channel in Europe now, I think, or certainly in the UK. We have around 14 million views a month on YouTube because we've invested that energy in that content. Same with Instagram, we give away free recipes. And so we came into it very kind of from an organic, we've done everything organically. All of our audience, customers on the PDF it was very organic, never really invested much in digital. And then I think I became a little bit well, it's a digital product, so maybe we should start doing digital acquisition and digital marketing. And so since launch, we've started to test the waters with that. And we've actually just come to the end of, I guess, what you'd call a 6-month experiment to see, what does digital acquisition mean for us as a business? And in short, we spent money on Facebook, on Google, and on Apple search ads. And it ended up accounting for just under 10% of our acquisition was through paid. Our acquisition costs, we got to the point where they were about break even on the lifetime value of a customer. Our lifetime value was kind of what the cost per acquisition was coming in at. And we've kind of now, literally just last week, kind of taken the foot off the gas a little bit and gone, let's just look at this. Over 90% of our customers still come through organic channels. So really understanding where does digital play a role in growth, future growth. And I think it's something we'll definitely do. And I just don't know how much we'll invest in that because we have such a strong organic, reach. I mean, our email, we have a huge email database, which is really powerful. We have around 900,000 email subscribers. And actually, I forgot, we actually did some one thing I never
say above the line.
One thing I've never thought we would do is any above the line advertising, but we got some, we did some outdoor stuff for launch. And again, it came down to that thing of like, right, me and Joe kind of going, if we're going to do this, let's do it properly. So if we're going to do it, let's work with an amazing agency. If we're going to do it, if we're going to make an announcement, let's go big. So we did like some big outdoor stuff. In terms of how impactful that was, no idea.
Yeah. Do you think you'd consider doing it again though, if you were doing a big push, say in a totally brand new market or on another platform?
But yeah, possibly. I mean, I think we weren't set up to really measure it. Like we don't have like brand uplift, case studies. We don't know. We can't really attribute. I think it was great for like a bit of a big bang launch, and it was nice seeing people on social media going, "Oh wow, I've just seen your big ads on." We had an amazing one in Kensington, and like this huge. It's called the Cromination. It's like one of the biggest billboards in London. So it was certainly fun seeing it. I don't know if we'd do it again. I'll be honest. We also got really good rates at the time because it was during lockdown and the kind of the cost. It was we could afford to take that risk, but I don't know. What I don't want to do is lose our focus on engagement and content. So I think the minute we dial up and think, well, digital and advertising can do all of our hard work, it means we stop kind of really pushing to put stuff out into what it's useful, because that's what's worked for us, like really kind of putting out content that's valuable to people. So I'm a big advocate for content.
So moving on to more of the kind of product design process, how much of your product has been designed based on the brand journey so far and your own instincts versus always running user testing? It's a great question from a kind of process perspective.
These are all for me, these questions.
Well, Colin, maybe you can talk a little bit about the kind of product process.
Yeah.
Can I just say one thing about that?
Yeah,
Go on,
sure.
Nick.
Sorry.
Should, yeah.
I've said I don't want any more questions and I've cut you off. No, all I would say though, because I think this is quite interesting. When we started to think about building an app, I realised we had no brand guidelines or any branding. We'd never done any branding. We didn't really know what colour we were or like if we had any fonts. It was like a friend had done some stuff like, designed it wasn't a logo, it was the body coach in a certain typeface. And I was like, God, like what are they gonna build this off? Like, Are they just gonna go on the website and go, oh, this is their colour? So we actually did a branding piece with Koto, and they basically did our brand identity, which we love. And then you can carry on now.
Well, I guess the thing to say is that I think it was a combination of both. I think there was really strong feelings because you knew your audience so well, and Joe, felt very intimately connected to what the people needed. A lot of the drive came from you guys, but then I think there was also an acceptance that our process is deeply connected to getting user feedback and using that as a way to at least understand the desirability aspect of a product. And I think it was a constant balancing of what because I mean even the shopping list, right? We could all kind of joke about the shopping list because it was not the initial scope, and Joe believed deeply that this was a critical component to the app, and we weren't getting that same feedback in our user research, but of course he was getting it from DMs and getting it from. So I think this balancing of like what does a user say they want, and then intuition that can also drive correct decisions was something that I think is not unique to this, but was definitely evident here. I think you're constantly having to balance these things. And I think that tension can sometimes be quite good, because if you rely too much on the user, you may not build something innovative, something too interesting. But then if you don't listen to them enough, you build something that they don't actually want to use. So I'd say in this case, I think it showed up in a lot of intuition and drive from Joe and Nikki, and then also balancing it off with what we got from the user research as well.
We're going to wrap up shortly, but there's one more question. And Nikki, just a kind of heads up for you. So on the point of hard of hearing, a massive recommendation that you make contact with the team at Signly if you're not in contact with them already. And then the question, would you look to create industry partnerships from a B2B to C perspective, enabling employees to access the app from a mental health perspective, such as seen with apps like Headspace or Calm? Could that be a good next step?
That it would be an amazing next step, and it's something we're really exploring now. So we're actually, so Sego, who I mentioned, who's our new head of product last week, one of the first things we've been talking about is just looking at what we would need to do to be able to do that. I think, again, fitness for everyone, like people in the workspace, employees, also, there's loads of other smaller demographics within, shift workers and NHS workers and people, we offer a kind of philosophy around fitness and training that it can be done in a short period of time, and it can be, it is accessible, and we want as many people to have access to it as we can. So yes, we are looking at what we need to do to be able to offer employees and B2B, and, whether it's product things we need to do, or whether it's more on the kind of subscription side. The answer is yes, we are looking to do that. And if it's a big thing for me, I would love to be able to do it tomorrow, but there's a bit of work to be done.
Great, so watch this space. Well, thank you both very much for your time. Nikki, thanks so much. We know how busy you are, particularly running such a small team. Thank you all in the audience for joining us. Hope it's been interesting, and we look forward to any more questions that you might throw our way. Thanks, and have a lovely afternoon.